Ed Welsh is on the line from AAA. How are you, Ed?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing this morning?
Not bad.
Great. A couple of things to talk about. Obviously, first and foremost, the U.S. State Department warning about worldwide travel. How does that affect you and your business and the folks that you serve?
Well, with about 47 million of us heading out for the Thanksgiving holiday, obviously 90% of us are going by car, but the rest of us are flying someplace, and many of those people are going international. So we do have some things that I'd like to share this morning that if you're going to travel overseas, especially into Europe, and we'll narrow that down, especially into Paris, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Number one, you want to keep a low profile. You shouldn't be wearing your Yankees hat and American flag on your shirt. That's probably a little, that's not what I would call inconspicuous. So you want to blend in is my point. And, keep a low profile, blend in. Obviously, you want to be alert at all times and pay attention to your surroundings. A lot of people get into vacation mode. They're going to a foreign country. They're excited. Just remember you're in just like any big city you'd go to. Pay attention to your surroundings. Obviously, we're watching the situation very closely, but there's a couple of things you can do as a traveler to help yourself. First of all, the State Department has what's called the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, and you can go online and do this. And by enrolling in this, especially if you're going overseas, the State Department will know where you're going. And it makes them a lot easier for the embassy or consulate to contact you in case of an emergency or something going on. So, the first thing when something bad happens is they try to find American citizens. Why don't you make it easier for the State Department to find you? Also, you need to recognize that, a lot of border controls and there's a lot of movement within cities being restricted because of all the security. Just think of New York City after 9/11, how tight everything was down there for a while. Well, this is what they're going through in a lot of Europe right now. So obviously they're not stopping people from traveling, but there's going to be more checkpoints, more security checks. And what you want to do is be prepared for that. For example, have your passport on you. A lot of times you go to a hotel, you lock your passport up. Well, you probably want to have it on you. Another thing you could do is take your passport, photocopy it, email it to yourself. If for some reason you lose all your documentation, at least you can go online to your email account, your Gmail account, your Hotmail account, whatever you got, and pull up an image of yourself on your passport in a real dire emergency. Number two is also get some extra identification. For example, applying for an international driving permit gives you one more level of acceptable ID when you're overseas. I don't believe your New York State driver's license is going to qualify as a recognizable ID, let's say in France, for example.
Now, Ed, you drew a little fire for your comments about not wearing a Yankee cap and not wearing U.S. flags. I know some folks on Facebook were unhappy with that, including former Utica Mayor Tim Julian, who said, we're proud to be Americans and proud to be New Yorkers. Is there a fine line between displaying some of that in a low-key fashion and acting overtly proud of being an American, perhaps?
Well, the bottom line is how much attention you want to draw to yourself in an area where things are not very good right now, and that's for individual judgments. I cited those as examples, but we recognize you want to be inconspicuous and blend in. I guess if half of France is wearing a Yankee hat, you'll blend in. but the bottom line is you want to make sure you and your family are safe when you're overseas.
Of course.
Sure, we're all proud to be Americans, but you know what? A lot of times Americans have targets on their backs.
Mm-hmm. I think you make some good points, Ed. I agree with you. I believe that just it takes we were talking about maybe being pompous, and you feel this entitlement to maybe traveling to specifically another country. You're a visitor there. Act accordingly.
Exactly, and again, use common sense. I may have cited some extreme examples there, but you don't want to call attention to yourself in a place where there could be bad guys. It's no different than in a large city. You wouldn't have money hanging out of your pocket while you're on a subway train.
Right.
I mean, just certain common sense things you wouldn't do. Obviously, if we're going to visit New York or any other place, we're going to wear whatever we wear. We're Americans. But when you're going to a foreign country, especially in the time of high security like this, you got to keep a low profile, and you got to pay attention to what you're doing.
Talking to Ed Welsh from AAA here, the regional director for the Northeast, on the Talk of the Town at 100.7 FM WUTQ. You mentioned a lot of us traveling via car this holiday season, and good news for car travel is because of the gas prices.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got an awful lot to be thankful for. We're paying the least for gasoline than we have since 2008. And locally, it's over $1 a gallon less than we were exactly a year ago today. So a lot of money is being saved. As a matter of fact, we calculate that $265 million a day is being saved by Americans on gasoline as compared to the same time last year. And, of course, that money is going back into people's pockets. Obviously, with the holiday season upon us, they'll probably want to spend that money a little bit. One of the things that we found in a recent study that we did this past month, you guys might find this hard to believe, but a lot of people are taking a good chunk of that change and actually spending it very fuelishly. And I'll use that term, fuelishly. They're actually buying more expensive gasoline than they need. In other words, regular gasoline is cheap enough now where they're buying mid-grade or premium and putting it in their cars. And I will tell you that unless your car specifically needs higher octane, don't waste your money. Some people actually thought they were going to give their car a treat. I would save that for your kids and for your dog. But your car doesn't know the difference, except that if it requires 87 octane and you're putting 93 in it, you're wasting money. And that money probably can be better spent on other things for yourself and for your family.
Spend it on another pie. How about the idea of the ethanol? There's a difference there.
Well, the other thing is that gas has 10% ethanol in it. You don't need to put anything in your gas tank anymore. In the old days, remember we used to use dry gas in the wintertime?
Sure, yep.
And that's what pretty much was. Dry gas was ethanol, or isopropyl was an ethanol derivative, and basically you don't need that anymore because you have 10% ethanol in the gasoline. Now, there are some places that sell high test that has no ethanol in it. This is what I recommend that you should use in your snow blowers. Many of us put that in our summer cars. If we have an older car, for example, we want to use the non-ethanol gas. It's not because we need the octane. We just don't want the corrosive nature of the ethanol in our old cars. New cars, anything built after 2001, can tolerate the ethanol just fine. But if you have an old car or even a snowblower that's got a carburetor on it, this is where the ethanol really starts to hurt the fuel system. So if you're going to use any of that stuff, stabilize the gas with some gas stable, or just spend the extra. This is the case where spending the extra money for premium gas for your snowblower, for example, is a good thing.
That's a good point. Yeah, the smaller engines. I experienced that with the lawnmower. I let it sit. It ate the seals a little bit quicker than normal.
Yeah, what it does is ethanol is corrosive. If you took a piece of rubber, like what's in a diaphragm of a carburetor, for an old carburetor, for example, or a fuel line, and just dropped it into some ethanol, it would actually start to get gummy and dissolve over a period of time. And that's what happens when this stuff, the vapors of this stuff, just works on while your things are sitting around. It's just like a leaf blower. You use a leaf blower for about 5 weeks of the year, maybe 4 weeks of the year. The rest of the year kind of just sits around. And anytime you leave that old gas in there, especially with ethanol, that's when things start to really get bad.
Drain it out. So the other idea, Ed, if we can, I know let's not get too picky. We talked about the gas prices. What's the trend going to look like? Are we going to see it drop a little bit?
Yeah, I think you're going to see gasoline drop. We're going to see a national price at Christmas time of probably around $2 a gallon.
Wow,
great!
And it may be below that. There's 16 states right now that have gasoline at below $2 a gallon. The closest one, of course, being New Jersey. They're at about $1.87, $1.90 a gallon right now is their statewide price, and we're going to see that continue. I think I'm not sure we'll get to $2 a gallon here in Utica, New York, but you'll have it in New York State, I guarantee you, below $2 a gallon.
All right, looking forward to it.
And one last thing, if I may.
Yep.
We expect to service about 360,000 breakdowns this weekend nationwide.
Wow.
And the three things that are going to cause most of that is batteries, tires, and lockouts, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Locking your keys in your car, I can't help you much with that. Again, you have to, it happens a lot. You got packages and stuff in your hand. You put stuff in the trunk, you close it. That happens. But before you leave on vacation or for the holiday, make sure you check your tire pressures. These swings in temperatures have a habit of deflating tires. Cold air contracts. It was like 25 degrees, as you said this morning. It'll be 55 degrees in a couple of days. So that temperature goes up and down. Tires expand and contract. They go flat. And number two, your battery. If your battery's more than 3 years old, have it checked. Most of the places that sell batteries, parts stores and auto places, they'll test your battery for free. If your battery's more than 3 years old, you should have it, or 3 years or older, you should have it tested to make sure it's up to snuff.
Ed, here's a tip. If you're saving a few extra dollars or some change on gasoline, throw it in and get that AAA membership. I have the gold package, best money I ever spent.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't want to give a shameless plug to AAA, but thank you.
Yes, and I've been a member before, too, and I need to renew. So thanks.
Well, make sure you get it before you leave. And one last thing is a lot of us are leaving on the roads at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock after work tomorrow. You had a busy day. You got up early. You had to do stuff before going to work. It gets dark at 4:30 now, and your body wants to go to sleep at night. It's a natural thing. Don't drive more than a couple of hours without pulling over, coffee, power nap. Drowsy driving is a big problem this time of the year, especially on long trips that you're not used to taking in the dark. So remember that. We want you to get to to where you're going safely for Thanksgiving, and make sure you get home safely at the end of the weekend.